Welcome to Unfolded Enigmas, where we uncover the world's most baffling and haunting mysteries. Today, we revisit the tragic and perplexing case of Joshua Maddux, a bright, creative 19-year-old who disappeared in 2008, only for his remains to be found years later in the most unsettling of places. What happened to Joshua? How did a simple walk turn into one of Colorado's most chilling enigmas? Join us as we explore the twists, theories, and unanswered questions of this haunting tale. Nestled on the edge of the Rocky Mountains, Woodland Park, Colorado, was the type of town where everyone felt like family. Surrounded by dense forests and stunning vistas, it was a place where the community thrived on simplicity and closeness. Among its residents was a bright, spirited teenager named Joshua Maddux. With his shaggy hair and thoughtful demeanor, Joshua stood out not because he tried, but because he radiated authenticity. He was the kind of person who could turn a quiet afternoon into a jam session with his guitar, or a simple conversation into a deep, memorable discussion. Joshua had an undeniable connection with nature. He spent countless hours exploring the trails and woods near his home, finding solace and inspiration in the towering pines and crisp mountain air. His friends would often see him strolling through town, headphones on, lost in the rhythm of a favorite song. Writing was another of Joshua's passions. He filled notebooks with lyrics, poems, and observations about the world around him. Those close to him recall how he could capture life's most complicated emotions in a single line of verse. At home, Joshua was the glue that held his family together after the devastating loss of his brother just 2 years earlier. Despite his own pain, he became a source of comfort for his parents, a steady presence in a household trying to heal. His parents admired his resilience, his curiosity, and his ability to find joy in the little things. Joshua wasn't just a son or a brother. He was their beacon of hope and creativity, a reminder that life could still hold promise. In Woodland Park, life moved at its own gentle pace. The locals had grown used to seeing Joshua on his routine walks, sometimes humming a tune, sometimes jotting notes into his pocket notebook. He had dreams, plans, and an unmistakable energy that suggested he was on the brink of something extraordinary. But no one knew that his path would take a turn so dark and unexpected that it would leave his community reeling and searching for answers that, even today, remain out of reach. It started like any other day. On a quiet morning in May 2008, Joshua Maddux stepped out of his Woodland Park home for a walk. It was something he often did, walking the local trails to clear his mind, find inspiration for his writing, or simply enjoy the serenity of the forest. This wasn't unusual for Joshua. A lover of nature and solitude, he had a habit of venturing out, losing himself in thought among the towering pines and peaceful paths that surrounded their small Colorado town. As the hours passed, his family thought little of it. Joshua's walks often stretched into the afternoon, sometimes into the early evening. But when the sun dipped below the horizon and Joshua still hadn't returned, his family began to worry. By nightfall, concern turned to alarm. Calls to friends turned up nothing. The familiar trails offered no sign of his presence. The town that once felt safe and predictable now seemed heavy with a foreboding silence. In the days that followed, the community rallied. Flyers went up. Search teams combed the woods, the neighborhoods, every place Joshua might have gone. Local law enforcement, neighbors, and family friends joined in the effort, retracing his usual routes and checking every possible lead. But the forest yielded no clues. No footprints, no belongings, nothing that might indicate where Joshua had gone or what might have happened to him. Each day that passed without an answer weighed heavier on the town. Rumors began to swirl. Some speculated that Joshua had simply wandered off to start a new chapter of his life. Others feared he had met with foul play. The family, though desperate for answers, tried to hold on to hope. But as days turned into weeks and weeks into months, hope grew harder to cling to. The boy who loved music, writing, and the peaceful trails of Woodland Park had vanished without a trace, leaving behind a family desperate for answers, a community shaken, and a mystery that would haunt them for years to come. The days turned into weeks, then months, and then years, yet there was still no trace of Joshua Maddux. His family held on to the hope that, somehow, he was alive. Maybe he had left Woodland Park to start fresh, away from the grief that had shrouded their home since his brother's tragic death. They imagined he might be out there pursuing his love of music or writing, perhaps in a place where he felt more free. But as time stretched on, that fragile hope began to feel more like an unanswered question than a comforting thought. In the tight-knit community of Woodland Park, whispers of what might have happened to Joshua never really faded. Rumors flared up like small fires. Some wondered if he had run into trouble on one of his hikes, while others speculated about more sinister scenarios. There was talk of strangers seen in town around the time of his disappearance, of hidden dangers in the woods that bordered their neighborhood. Some residents believed Joshua had deliberately sought isolation, while others couldn't shake the feeling that he hadn't left by choice. The absence of any clues only deepened the mystery and fueled more speculation. The Maddux family, though quiet in their grief, never stopped looking. Every once in a while, a new lead would surface. Someone claimed to have seen a young man who looked like Joshua, or a tip would point to a distant town. Each time, the family would hope this might be the break they needed, only to be met with disappointment. The town, too, remained on edge, haunted by the unknown. People would occasionally revisit Joshua's old haunts, the trails he used to walk, wondering if they had somehow missed something. They couldn't shake the feeling that his story wasn't over, that some piece of the puzzle was still out there, waiting to be found. The passing years brought no answers, only more questions, more theories, and a growing unease that this mystery might never be solved. For 7 long years, the mystery of Joshua Maddux's disappearance lingered in Woodland Park. Then, in 2015, a shocking discovery would thrust his name back into the spotlight. A contractor tasked with demolishing an old, abandoned cabin just a few blocks from Joshua's home stumbled upon something no one could have anticipated: human remains lodged within the chimney. What had started as a routine teardown suddenly became a chilling crime scene. The contractor stopped immediately and contacted the authorities. When investigators arrived, they found the remains partially decomposed and tightly confined within the narrow chimney flue. The body was wedged in such a way that it was clear the person had entered from above. Nearby, the family of the cabin's owner claimed the structure had been vacant for years, boarded up and untouched. As word of the discovery spread, neighbors were stunned. How could this happen so close to home, and how had it remained hidden for so long? Identification was swift. Dental records confirmed the remains were those of Joshua Maddux. But as investigators pieced together the circumstances, the case only became more perplexing. There were no signs of foul play at the scene, and initial reports suggested an accidental death. Some speculated that Joshua, known for his free-spirited nature and love of exploring, may have attempted to climb down the chimney and become stuck. But questions arose almost immediately. Why would he have removed his clothes? Why was there no evidence he had entered the house through traditional means? And, most hauntingly, why had no one heard him call for help? The public's reaction was swift and filled with disbelief. For years, people had wondered if Joshua had simply wandered away to start a new life. The sudden confirmation of his death, and in such a strange confined space, shocked the community to its core. Friends, family, and true crime enthusiasts alike couldn't stop speculating. The discovery of his remains in that chimney, so close to home yet hidden for so many years, left more questions than answers. How had no one noticed? Why was the chimney his final resting place? And what exactly had happened in those last moments? The shocking discovery of Joshua Maddux's body marked the start of a new, even more unsettling chapter in his story. The coroner's report concluded that Joshua Maddux's death was accidental. Investigators theorized that on that fateful day, Joshua, ever the explorer, attempted to enter the abandoned cabin by climbing down its chimney. As he descended, he became wedged in the narrow flue, unable to move or call for help. No signs of trauma were found on his body, and the initial assessment suggested no foul play. With the case deemed an unfortunate accident, The official ruling was meant to bring closure. But it didn't. Instead, it opened the door to even more unsettling questions. Why, for instance, were Joshua's clothes missing? His clothing was found inside the cabin, folded neatly near the fireplace, an odd detail that left investigators and the public alike scratching their heads. If Joshua had simply intended to climb into the chimney, why would he remove his clothes first, especially in the cold Colorado weather? The absence of a plausible reason for this behavior added a layer of strangeness to the case. There was also the question of how he managed to reach the chimney unnoticed. The cabin was said to have been securely boarded up, with no obvious points of entry. If Joshua had climbed onto the roof, how did he get up there without a ladder or other equipment? And if he fell in by mistake, why was there no sign of a struggle or injury that might indicate an accident during the descent? Some skeptics pointed to these inconsistencies as evidence that foul play couldn't be ruled out entirely. Could Joshua have been forced into the chimney? Did someone remove his clothes and place them inside? Or did he willingly climb in, only to find himself hopelessly trapped? These lingering doubts continue to fuel speculation, with friends, family, and amateur investigators searching for answers that seem just out of reach. To this day, the boy in the chimney mystery remains one of Woodland Park's most haunting tales. The official ruling might say accident, but the unanswered questions, why his clothes were removed, how he got into the chimney, and whether someone else was involved, keep the case alive, leaving a community still grasping for the truth. Since the discovery of Joshua Maddux's remains, his case has sparked an avalanche of theories, each one attempting to explain the unexplainable. On one side, some speculate that Joshua's adventurous spirit led him to seek refuge in the old, abandoned cabin. Perhaps he climbed down the chimney, only to become hopelessly stuck. This explanation, while straightforward, doesn't sit well with many. After all, why would someone choose such a perilous entry point, especially when there were easier ways inside? And even more puzzling, why were his clothes found inside the cabin, neatly placed by the fireplace? Other theories take a darker turn. Could Joshua have been fleeing from someone that day? Maybe he saw the chimney as a desperate escape route, believing he'd emerge safely on the other side. If so, who was he running from, and why? The thought of Joshua trying to escape a pursuer, only to find himself trapped and alone in the suffocating darkness, sends chills down the spine. But if this scenario holds any truth, why has no one come forward with evidence of a confrontation, a threat, or even a witness account? Amateur sleuths and online forums have kept the discussion alive, poring over every detail and dissecting the coroner's report. Some point to inconsistencies in the official ruling, questioning how Joshua could have climbed into the chimney unnoticed, why he removed his clothes, and how no one heard him call for help. Others wonder if the location of the cabin, just blocks from his home, suggests something more sinister, something no one has uncovered yet. These lingering mysteries keep Joshua's story from fading into obscurity. Each unanswered question fuels another theory, another late-night conversation among those captivated by his tale. Was it a tragic accident? A desperate flight from danger? Or something else entirely? No one knows for sure. What's certain is that this case continues to haunt anyone who delves into it, leaving behind more questions than answers, and a chilling reminder that not all mysteries are meant to be solved. The discovery of Joshua Maddux's remains in 2015 ended years of agonizing uncertainty for his family, but it did not bring them peace. Instead, it forced them to confront an unimaginable truth. Joshua was gone, and the questions surrounding his death might never be fully answered. For his family, it was a bittersweet resolution, one that closed the chapter on his disappearance but opened new wounds about the mystery of his final moments. From the start, the Maddux family was steadfast in their belief that Joshua's vibrant life deserved to be remembered for more than just its tragic ending. His father, his siblings, and those closest to him described Joshua as a dreamer, a creative soul who saw the world differently. They turned their grief into action, keeping his story alive through interviews, public statements, and participation in efforts to raise awareness about missing persons cases. Their hope was that by sharing Joshua's story, they could shine a light on the challenges families face when a loved one vanishes without a trace. Joshua's case also underscored the gaps in how some missing persons investigations are handled. The family spoke out about the need for more thorough searches of abandoned buildings, more widespread sharing of missing persons information, and a greater understanding of the emotional toll on families left behind. Their advocacy brought attention to the overlooked and sometimes forgotten cases that, like Joshua's, slipped through the cracks. In the years since his discovery, the Maddux family has carried his memory forward, turning a deeply personal tragedy into a call for action and change. Their enduring love for Joshua has not only kept his legacy alive but also inspired a broader conversation about the importance of persistence, compassion, and thoroughness in missing persons investigations. Through their efforts, they've ensured that Joshua's story will not be forgotten, and that his life, full of creativity, dreams, and a unique spark, will continue to be a symbol of the need for answers, justice, and hope. More than a decade after Joshua Maddux disappeared, the mystery of how he ended up in that chimney remains as chilling as ever. It's a tale of a young life cut tragically short, a family left searching for answers, and a community forever haunted by what might have been. Thank you for joining us on Unfolded Enigmas. If you found this story compelling, please like, share, and subscribe as we continue to explore the world's most perplexing mysteries.